on, everyone, let's dance. How are you all doing, everyone? How are you? Good? Yes. It is so good to be here. I love this stage. It's like my favorite conference in the world, just because of the stage and the people, of course. But I want to have a really good talk. I'm going to be honest. I built my slides last night because things keep changing too fast. So if I had to build them at the time I put the talk in, the talk would have been outdated and would have made no sense. So I'm building the day before the conference, which is super exciting. I also then built something else, which I'm going to show you at the end, towards the end of the talk that I built today, which is, I'm super excited. It's so super cool. So I'm very excited right now. We're going to talk about basically creating AI workflows with MCP and skills. It didn't have skills in the title because skills didn't exist at the moment I submitted this talk. This is how fast AI is changing. I want to ask you a question first. Who here is actually using AI daily, like every single day, every moment of their day? All right, good, good. Who here refuses to use AI and thinks that they can write code faster? You, well done. You'll be out of a job tomorrow. I'm only messing. Who feels they are actually, that it is actually useful, that AI is actually something that they want to learn and use more? Okay, good. And who here is very worried about the future? Yeah, all right, good. I can't help you there. But my name is Debbie O'Brien. I don't know what to say. I didn't know what to put in here. I'd actually spelled it wrong and everything. But I'm a developer relations engineer. I belong to nobody at the moment because I was laid off twice in the last 3 months. I was laid off from Microsoft first, and then I was one of the 40% laid off from Block just recently. So I'm having a good time here. I know AI. I am living on the bleeding edge of AI, and I'm working. You might have known me from being Nuxt ambassador and then from Playwright. And I was recently doing some Goose stuff, which is an AI coding agent from Block. And I got laid off. So that just means that we are living in very uncertain times. Now, don't worry. I'm pretty confident I will have a job by next month. I'm not worried about that. I do not know how long I will have a job for. That is something that nobody knows. But I wanted to address that because I think we need to be a little bit more cautious of where we're going and not kind of live in this, oh, I'm going to stay in this company for 10 years and I'm pretty safe. So I want you to just kind of reflect a little bit. I think what you're doing right now is fantastic. You are here to learn more. I think we need to learn more. We need to continue being able to change with the times. You're at this conference, you're going to learn some really amazing stuff, but that's going to mean absolutely nothing if you just go home and do nothing with it. So you need to start applying it. I'm going to show you something today. If you only go home with this one thing and apply this one thing to your workflow, you will definitely, it will help you in doing more with AI and just being more productive in general. So that's as far as I can do in helping you in the future of jobs. But yeah, it's tough. Times are tough. So the only thing is, I'm having the most fun of my life right now. So seriously, don't worry about the future because there's nothing we can do about it. Just have fun. So let me tell you about the problem I have with my website, because that's what we're really here to learn about, is agentic workflows. So the old way, right? What I used to do, I use Nuxt content. I'm a big fan of Nuxt content. Anyone else here using Nuxt content? Not enough of you. Oh my gosh. Well done for those who are using it. Like, you don't need CMSs. You don't need to pay all these things, right? You just need Nuxt content. It's free. And you know what's great? LLMs love Nuxt content because it's just Markdown, so it's fantastic. So anytime I wanted to add content to my site, like a video, if I do a talk, a podcast, a blog post, you know, it doesn't get updated for like weeks because I just couldn't be bothered. Because, you know, you got to duplicate the file, add the metadata, download the image, upload it to Cloudinary, use Cloudinary for my images, then create a PR, and it's like, just takes too long, and I don't have time. So I just don't bother updating my site. Then it kind of things changed, and I started from those manual tasks to create reusable prompts. And that was pretty cool. And I have in VS Code, and I do into my prompt, and just run that prompt using MCP servers. Who here is using MCP servers? All right, good. Not enough of you, but good for you. Those who are using it, you all should be using MCP servers. So yes, that was then, but now I'm just using skills. Who here is using skills? Not a lot of people. Great, you're in the right talk. Good. Who here does not know what a skill is? All right, good. I'm going to show you what a skill is today and break it down for you as well. And who here doesn't use skills because they think they don't need to use skills? All right, I'm going to fix you. You need a lot of fixing, man. All right. Today, all I do is say, add these videos to my site, and I put in a URL to the YouTube video, and that's it. Now that's insane, right? Because that means all of you who want to follow the content I create can get all the content I create easily from my website, and it takes me no time, right? So this is just my personal stuff, but imagine at a company level and on a different kind of workflow. This is just me personally, but it's insane. One prompt, done. I use Copilot Coding Agent, and I can use the Cloud Agent, so I can even do it from my mobile phone. I can do it from wherever, and I've basically created a skill called Add Content. This skill basically tells the LLM agent, now you could use Cloud Code as well, I was using Goose as well, so I've tried it with everyone, they all work. And Add Content skill basically tells the agent a little bit about my website, so it's kind of like your instructions for your website, a little. It tells it about Nuxt content and how that works, how I have set up my website, what I need from the content. It also explains to it that I'm using Cloudinary. I add in the Cloudinary MCP server, so I never have to actually open the browser and go to Cloudinary, because I don't want to do that. Open, go to Cloudinary, upload the image, change the URL, download, right? It does all that, and I just put it in the skill, and it basically does everything. I also use the Playwright CLI skill to go and tell it to verify its own work. So it opens up the browser, it checks that everything is working, and it's added the content that it should have, and then it goes and uses the GitHub MCP server, and it makes a PR, and then happy days, it's there, done in a second. So it's one prompt, and all this is done. But this is about writing a skill. So if you write the skill, everything is going to be the same each time. If you don't write a skill, you don't know if it's going to remember what you want. So basically, this is it. This is the Copilot Coding Agent in the cloud. And I literally just say, use this content skill to add this video. And I could put 6 videos in there. I could even just add a blog post and a podcast and put the whole list in there. And Copilot just goes and does it while I was having a martini on the balcony in the sun, actually, while I was doing this. No missing. And it's really cool. It basically just says, this is on the 9th of March. Here's the metadata that I need. It's closing the Playwright browser there, creates the Git branch, does everything. And that's the only thing that I need. That's the markdown content for Nuxt content. That's all Nuxt content needs to be able to show that video on my website. But to be able to go there and get it, and you might say, oh, well, why don't you create a script to go to your YouTube channel, scrape it, etc. But some of my talks are on other people's channels, some of the podcast things. So it's not about my channel, it's about where my content lives in various places. So it's important to improve this workflow based on, my videos could be anywhere, my podcast could be anywhere. So this is pretty cool. Anyone else doing something like this? Yeah, a few people. Excellent. All right, so you should all be doing this by next year. No, by next week, okay? Because things are moving fast. So now you don't have a year anymore. You've got a week to implement everything. So how does it work? This is basically the workflow, right? The user requests the video. It identifies the content type. Is it a video? Is it a podcast? Is it a blog? And I have different skills, different resources in the skill for each one, so that you're not duplicating all the kind of content across it, but you're sharing some things, and then other things like the MCP server for Cloudinary is only used for podcasts, because that's the only time I add an image. And then it opens the Playwright CLI skill. Now, you can scrape with the Playwright CLI skill, for example, but you could also use other tools. You could just use a curl command. You could use a lot of other things. It extracts all the data that it needs. It validates the tags against the taxonomies that I have in there in my actual application. It creates the branch, opens the PR, and then it verifies that everything is working, and then it basically says, yeah, it's done, go and you're done, you're live. And that's the workflow, super simple. So this is something I use a lot, and I want you to all kind of start using when you're building something as well, not just in skills, but outside of it. The Playwright CLI is a skill. It was released, I don't know, a month ago maybe, and it's basically instead of the Playwright MCP server. Is anyone using the Playwright CLI skill? Yeah, only a few of you, okay? So the difference between the Playwright CLI skill and the Playwright MCP server is the CLI skill is very less token heavy. It's not putting everything into context. Like an MCP server puts all the tools into the context. The Playwright CLI basically doesn't load anything until you ask for it. So it's very more efficient, and it's a lot cheaper than to use. So definitely check that out. But I use it when I'm even building something. I'm vibe coding an application or something, and I basically say, Playwright CLI, go and verify your own work. Like basically tell the LLM to use Playwright CLI to verify its own work. So then it basically verifies, it takes a screenshot, it's able to say, yes, this feature was added, this was done, etc. And it just saves a lot of that back and forth, because sometimes It's actually really good these days, so it doesn't make a lot of errors, but sometimes if it sees an error, it can go and correct itself before it even sends it back to you. And that's like just an automated QA, like just there for you. So that's just a tip to add into your workflow. So what are skills for those of you that do not know what skills are? And it's so simple. They're basically just a way for you to teach your AI all the secret sauce to what you want, all the knowledge that you have in there. Imagine if you have like someone that's coming along to work for you, and you need to tell them what they need to do. It's just all the secrets, right? All the onboarding information. Basically, you're just giving that to the LLM and saying, this is how we want things to be done, right? This is the workflow that you need to use in order to get things done. So think of like a chef, a recipe card. The chef knows how to cook, but they don't know your recipe. They don't know how to make your tomato sauce, right? And that's basically all it is. It's very, very simple. So simple and easy to use that you should all start implementing it. Without it, you just might get generic outputs or too many questions back from the LLM, or just inconsistent results, right? Because LLMs are indeterministic, so you're not going to get all the same things all the time. However, with your skill, you will get the same things back because you've structured it a specific way. And you can share it with your team as well. So you can create a team, you can create a skill, share it with your team, and then you just reproduce it the whole time. And you can obviously alter it as well if things change. So basically, what is a skill? This is the content skill, the add content skill I've created. And skills live in basically a .agents folder or .cloud folder if you're using Cloud Code. Or you could use a .copilot, .github folder, for example. And then they have to be in a skills folder, and then you've just got the skill itself. My skill is called add content. Maybe that's not a great name. I could have added something else. And you've got basically a markdown file, skill.md file. It must be named skill.md. And inside there, you have YAML front matter with a name and a description. The name of your skill must match the folder name. And then you have a description, how the LLM is going to read your skill. And then you have like something telling it what to do. Now, this is the thing and the difference between MCP servers and skills. The only thing that gets loaded by the LLM is the name and the description. It knows the skill is there. That gets loaded into your context each time. Then, when it says, oh, she asked me to add a blog post, I'll go and add and use the add content skill. Then it loads in the rest of the markdown file. So, maybe there's 300 lines of code in there. Now, if it's super, super, super long, that's you're adding a lot of things into context. So how do you make that smaller? And that's when you use files such as references, for example. So I've got a reference, I've got a video MD, I've got the blog post, and I've got the podcast MD. So I separate them out because, like I said, Cloudinary is only used in podcast. So if I call the video MD file, I don't want it to start loading the Cloudinary MCP server. And then you can have an environment one that tells you that they share. And the references only get called when the LLM actually needs it. So it makes it super kind of, this is on demand, I need this, I'm going to pull this in, etc. So yeah, this is really, really cool thing to know about. It's something that I didn't know about until I started using it, and I was like, okay, it makes sense now. So basically, this is all a skill is, right? You have some YAML in there, a name, description. Remember, it's got to be very descriptive if you want the LLM to be able to use it in a simple prompt like I showed you. If not, you can always just say use the add content skill, right? So you can totally do that, or you could just use a prompt, and in the description, it's very clear that the LLM wants to use that skill. So the name has to be the folder name. The description is what triggers the skill. Simple as that. Does that look easy? Yeah? Okay. It's 3-level loading. Basically, always name and description is always loaded. Remember that. Trigger, the skill MD is triggered, the body gets loaded, and then on demand, it pulls in the references. Super, super easy. It's really, really cool. So this is how you build your first skill. I'm just going to break it down to a super, super simple. I want you to all go and build this skill. If you go to my website, you'll be able to see a video and a blog post on this because it's so, so, so super simple. So minimum, this is a stupid skill, right? But still, we're going to say good morning. And I basically have a skill that every time I say good morning to my agent, it says good morning back to me in the way I want it to say good morning. Just like how I've programmed Alexa to tell me I'm amazing every day. So the same thing. It responds with a cheerful greeting. And then I tell it how I want it to respond to me. I basically say, it greets me by name. So it says, good morning, Debbie. It asks about my day and includes a joke, right? That's all you need to create a skill. Now, every time you say good morning into the chat, and you can try this out and seriously just build this, it works. It works. And you're like, oh my God, if I can do that, what else can I do? That's what you need to start thinking about. What else can I do if I can do that? If it's so simple to just do that. So location is also important. You can build skills at a project level, and you can also build skills at global level, right? What's the difference? Obviously, remember the name and description is getting loaded each time into the context. If it's globally, and you save them all globally, and you have 150 skills, there's 150 name and description of skills going into your context every time you're using the LLM. So think about when you need to use it and when you don't. For example, Playwright CLI skill. I put it globally because I use it so much. I find it a skill that is something that I'm going to use on pretty much every repo that I'm using. I'm going to put that globally. Add content kind of only needs to be in my repo because it's literally based on that project. It's only relevant to Debbie.codes. So I put it in there and that's it. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're building skills. Where do I put it is important. And again, I'm using an agents folder. If you're using Claude Code, you'll be using a .claude folder. But agents works across all the other agents. And then, then you can basically use it in Copilot and Claude and Cursor and Goose or in any other LLM that you want to use it in. So, do you think you can go build a skill now? Yeah? Cool, excellent. I want you to all share that skill with me later. Even if it's just good morning, I want you to tag me and say, look, I built this. Skills are cool. And you can also find and install skills. This is really cool, and it's actually a little bit overwhelming. But you can go to skills.sh, and you can basically just use npx skills, and you can find them. There's an actual skill from Anthropic and telling you how to build a skill. So you don't even have to remember, what did Debbie say about where to put it? Is it in an agents folder? Is it the skills folder? You just run that npx command. It's just going to build it all out for you. And then you can just put your good morning in there. Skill done, happy days. That's how super simple it is. Now, when you go to that website, there's like skills for everything. People have created skills, like so many skills. It's a little bit overwhelming because it's kind of almost, it is written for agents. So when you read the thing, it's like, what is going on here? Kind of almost feels like there should be a human readable part that tells you a little bit about the skill first, rather than just like dumping the markdown stuff in there. But it's really, really cool. Now, be careful, because people build skills, right? That doesn't mean you have to trust everything that people build. So be careful when you're taking a skill. If I was to take a skill, I would take the Anthropic skill for sure. If I put a skill up there under my name, you have to decide, do you want to trust me or not? Because it's very easy to prompt inject something in there into the markdown, and that's going to go ahead and take your API keys and things like that. So be very careful. You can totally install it, read it, check the code files if you want, but be very careful, because remember that in skills you can have code being executed in there as well. So yes, be careful. Don't come to me and say like, oh my God, it did this, right? It can do anything, so yes. But there are some amazing skills out there, so definitely go and clone them, try them out, and then you can rebuild your own ones based on them. So they're composable, right? That's the cool thing about skills. My add content skill uses the Playwright CLI, so it uses other skills. It also uses MCP servers, the Cloudinary MCP and GitHub MCP, for example. I know you might say, but what's the difference, MCP server and skills? There are differences, and sometimes maybe you don't need MCP servers because you just have skills, but maybe you need MCP servers along with skills. So there's kind of a little bit of a debate out there. It depends on what your use case is, what you're using, and what the company provides you with. For example, Cloudinary don't have a CLI, so I can't use a CLI skill. I need to use the MCP server to be able to go to Cloudinary, get the stuff done, get the image up there, and give me the URL back to be able to then, have my image uploaded. Which is super cool, like that you don't have to go to the website and do it yourself. It's like amazing. So that gives me power, the power. And then you can just share that with your team. So if you're working in a company and you build something like that, you can share it with everyone. Everyone can use it. So you can have internal skills shared across the company. So yeah, and no complex setups required if it's in your repo, or you basically can push it to a repo online. And my skills are online as well, so you can just go to my GitHub and you can totally just take them for your own. Okay, so the takeaways. Skills are basically just domain knowledge, right? You just start with one file. Start there, and then just build the rest of the stuff that you need. And then compose them for powerful workflows. And then just share your expertise with the world. Okay, now it's time for some fun. I want to tell you a story. So while I was last night in the hotel room, I thought, what if I could show something on the stage of a different workflow, not just my website, and you're all kind of thinking, is that impressive? Debbie's updated her website. Is it impressive, my website update? Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, no, a little bit of a, yeah, no, all right, okay. I'm going to show you something that I think is impressive because it wowed me. It made me go wow. So I want you to go wow. But you can totally be honest and say, that wasn't wow. I'm okay with people being honest. Basically, what I did was I created this in the last job I was working in for the release videos. Release videos are hard to make, and when I was in Playwright, I would go to the GitHub changelog, I would read the whole changelog, I would open the links to the issues, I would read through some of the issues to get an understanding of why this feature was created, why people wanted this feature, to then be able to create a release video so that I could share, what's new in this release. So I basically built a skill because this is a lot of, back to forth, you're repeating the same processes. And I wanted to, I didn't have enough time in the last job. We didn't have time for release videos, so they just basically said, it takes too long, don't do it. And I was like, what if I could automate the process? What if I could create a skill that does all this work for me? Now, it took me about 6 hours to build a skill, right? But then it takes 30 minutes to run the skill every time. Every time there's a new release, 30 minutes. Now, I got let go from my last job, so this skill is meaningless to anyone else. But I thought, what if I could use my skill for another type of company, another type of product? It's just based off a GitHub changelog. So if the GitHub changelog is the same, the only thing then that's different is all the brand details. So what if I could also pass in to my skill a different brand and say, I want to create a skill for this brand, and the changelog is going to be different. Will it work? So this was me last night at 11 p.m., and I got it to work. And I said, wow, this is cool. And then I said, what if I could basically go and create a release video for Daniel's new release that he released earlier today? So straight after Daniel's talk, I was over there with Daniel watching. One prompt, everybody. This was the prompt that I used. It's on my computer. If you don't believe me, I can totally show you. This is the prompt I used, and it generated a release video using the skill I made. I'm going to show you the video right now. It is AI generated, okay? You don't have to love AI generated videos, but I just want to show you something that is, it takes so little time, one prompt, and then I just walked away. It did everything. Half an hour it took for the processing of stuff, but it was only one prompt. I want to show you this because I want you to think about ideas. How can you do this for in your company, some marketing style videos, some other kind of things you can use, some onboarding, some training, some whatever. This is cool. I think it is. You can tell me. Let's watch the video and you can tell me what you think.
Nuxt version 4.4 is here, and it's a big one. Introducing Create Use Fetch and Create Use Async Data. You can now build custom instances of your data fetching composables with your own default options. Define your base URL once, add interceptors, and use them exactly like UseFetch. Fully typed, everywhere. We've upgraded to View Router version 5. This is the first major router upgrade since Nuxt 3, removing the dependency on unplugin View Router. For most apps, it's a transparent upgrade, and typed routes are coming out of experimental next. Layout props are now fully typed. Pass props directly to your layouts from define page meta. No more provide inject workarounds. Your layouts become truly parameterized per page with full autocomplete. Accessibility gets a boost with Use Announcer. Announce dynamic content changes to screen readers, perfect for form submissions, loading states, and search results. Just call polite or assertive from anywhere. And route generation just got 28 times faster in development. We've migrated to unrouting using a try data structure. Changes that don't add or remove pages are nearly instant. That's Nuxt v4.4.0. Upgrade today at nuxt.com. Nuxt version 4.4 is here.
Sorry, what do you think, everyone? That just shows you the power of agentic workflows and things you can do with skills, right? And I want you to just take away from that you can all build and do anything. Now, that was generated in 30 minutes. I didn't go, like you saw, that was just released today. That was released today, and I was able to get a release video out. Is Daniel here? I don't think Daniel's here. But Daniel was with me, and he verified, and he said that it's good enough, and that we can put it on the Nuxt channel. Like, that's amazing, right? That is amazing that just with that, looking at that, he was able to say, yeah, everything is the context, the content, it is perfect. There's nothing wrong, right? Now, if there was, this is actually just code. It's TypeScript. And it's using Remotion. And it's actually, my skill uses Remotion skill to be able to create the video. It's actually React, don't worry. But it's TypeScript. You can basically just go into it. I haven't ever gone into the code itself, though. I just tell the LLM when I was building the skill, actually make this a bit bigger, change this, do this. But it's just code. So you can go in and change it and modify it, and you can own it. You can, do so much more with it. And I don't know, it also uses the 11 Labs MCP server. Did you think that was my voice? That wasn't my voice. That was AI generated. But that was my voice. So that was basically my clone that I cloned, and that is in the 11 Labs, my personal account. And then I use the 11 Labs MCP server inside the skill. I don't open 11 Labs. It basically creates the script for me as part of my skill. It then goes to 11 Labs using the 11 Labs MCP server. It takes the clone that I created, and then it generates the voice clone based off the text that it generated, and then it stitches it all together. It's amazing. I didn't do anything, one prompt. That is how cool things are. Now, if I had to do that myself, I would have literally been, I don't have the recording equipment here. I was in my hotel room. Well, I was over here, actually, while you were all watching the next talk. That's the cool thing about it. So I haven't published this. It's still just on my computer, this skill, but I'll definitely create a video or a blog post or something and publish it, just in case you all want to try it out on other things. Put in your own GitHub MCP or GitHub changelog, put in something else. You're not getting my voice, though. That's mine. You should pay me loads of money for my voice. But you could totally clone your own voice. Check out 11 Labs. It's really, really cool. It's pretty amazing. And does it sound like me? Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, my husband was like, what, is that you? It's cool. I was impressed. There are moments where you go, oh, I wouldn't have said it that way. But it's pretty cool. It doesn't cost me anything to do that. Like, it's amazing. So everyone, that's all I have. If only you go away with one thing, is create a skill. If your skill is just to say good morning, create that good morning skill. Check out my site if you want more information, debbie.codes, and go and just have fun. We are in the time where everything is unstable, so learn everything, apply everything that you can, and just have fun, everyone. Be creative, build things, because right now you can do anything. Thank you very much.